Welcome back to Data Driven Recruiting. This is Sophia Beck, and I'm joined by my co-host Tigran Sloyan.
Hello. So today we're talking about the future of resumes. It's an exciting topic because there's a lot of talk around like what is the future of resumes is going to look like. So I wanted to dive in and talk about what it could be and what it's definitely not going to be.
Okay.
So I guess the first pet peeve that I have that I always keep talking about is that the future of resumes cannot have video on it, right? Because like there is a lot of talk about the future of resumes is going to be this video-based interactive resume where somebody sends you their resume and you can just like play back them talking and yada yada.
It's almost like a mini interview.
Exactly, right? Almost like a mini interview. The problem with the problem with a mini interview is that resume is supposed to be like the first thing, like the first filter of, whether you move forward or you do not. And we talk about unconscious biases a lot. And talking about it doesn't help it. Like humans are going to have unconscious biases, even if you're trained not to sort of, fall for it, but you still have unconscious biases. And having a video of someone be the first thing that you see is going to be making it even worse. So unless you're a television anchor or you do a lot of, podcasts, which could be like, unless the way you look, the way you speak, the way you communicate, the way you feel in front of a camera is a necessity for the job, which is important for actors, anchors, and jobs like that.
So you're saying that how comfortable and polished they are in front of a camera is not necessarily a reflective measure of what their potential is. That
it's not a reflective measure, but also it biases people towards certain decisions. So like, it is important if you're going for one of those roles. Those are very, very small niche roles. But for generically speaking, if we're speaking about the future of resumes, adding that into the resume is going to make things much worse than they are right now. Right now, like even from your name and the sound of it and the gender implications of your name on your current resume already mess things up. Yeah,
and I've heard of researches about how like most human, like men and women, actually have a more negative association with women's voice when it's a higher pitch and it's not as, have the kind of a tagline of it doesn't sound professional.
Yeah, and it's everything. Yeah. It's not even just the voice. Everything from the sound of the name to look, shape of the face. People consider certain face shapes more trustworthy than others. There's a lot of research that goes behind, what associations people naturally make. Yeah. And all of those things are going to amplify the level of bias that current resumes already have.
So the video resume could be promoting, like hire by the look.
Basically, so right? Like unintentionally.
Yeah.
It's easy to assume that, when it gets to the interview stage, we're going to see the person. So we might as well move that piece to higher to the funnel. But no, it's the other way around. Like if you're moving things to the top of the funnel, you must move things that are more objective, more, unbiased, because at that stage it's very easy to just say no for some random stupid reason, right? So you should only be moving things to the very top of the funnel, i.e. kind of the future of the resume, that are a little bit more unbiased, whereas something like a video and a look creates a very, very, very biased perspective.
But I mean, kind of to look at it from the other perspective, I mean, I guess the people who are promoting video resume is coming from like it is a lot richer information than just a piece of paper can convey.
Sure.
So like, is there a way to have that kind of a rich information, but maybe we anonymize the voice and the look?
Well, that would be like a dot speaking, right? So if you anonymize the look, the gender, the voice, and everything, it might look a little bit awkward. Yeah. But just to kind of build on what you said, right? Like people want richer information closer to the top of the funnel to convey more. The key is to choose what type of information is going to create even more biases and what type of information is going to improve the overall hiring and decision-making process when it comes to finding great talent. And I think the future, just to kind of dive into what that future of a resume is going to look like, is going to have unbiased data about person's skills that are relevant for the job. I think if you go too far to the future, we are even going to have like a context-based resume. So like depending on whose resume, like what kind of a job am I, considering you for, I think what I see is going to be different. Just like, ads have targeting, I think in a similar way, your resume in the future could have targeting depending on like who's looking at it. Because everybody has many different facets. Instead of trying to put it into one like static form, you can have.
But you also do that now though, right? You have different version of a resume, you send it out to different recruiter.
Assuming that's what you're sending and not them finding it. Because like LinkedIn is your kind of like the resume 2.0 right now, right?
I see.
So people usually find that. So you can imagine in the future when people find you, depending on who they are and what kind of a person they're looking for, the information could be different. Yeah. But I guess that's not the key. The key is the information they see should be direct measure of ability, relevant to kind of what you're hiring for.
Just like as the relevancy is more important here. Richer information that are more relevant for making the hiring decision.
Exactly, but not based on proxies. Because today, the biggest problem with resumes is that they're based on proxies. The proxy of the school you went to, the proxy of the companies you worked at. And what I mean by those are proxies is those are signaling tools for like, oh, if I worked at this company or went to this school, that means I'm good at whatever I do. It does not mean you're good at whatever you do. It could have a correlation, but at the same time, a lot of the times it doesn't have the correlation, and people get a lot of discrimination and bias against them if they don't have the right pedigree. Whereas if you could actually measure it directly and show, all right, I'm hiring for an analyst. I care about their, let's say, Excel skills or spreadsheet skills. Here is their ability to work in Excel XYZ. Here's their level. Here's their scores. Here's their direct measurement of ability.
I see. What are other ways to have more that kind of information into the resume, or is because I also hear about different startups trying to build this like machine learning about being able to pick out different keywords from the resume and trying to run different models to predict who's going to perform well.
Yeah.
Because that's another way of the correlation is not there yet, maybe because it's a human and we're not systematically thinking about how to make the connection.
Sure. Yeah. I think those kinds of companies, and I know a few as well, like I think they create efficiency for how things are done today. So in the sense that like what are recruiters doing today? Usually they say like, okay, here's the keywords that I'm looking for. I mean, they're going to be doing it no matter what. So those companies come and say, well, what if we automate it for you? What if an algorithm just went and looked for those and filtered out the ones who do have and don't have it, right? I see that as kind of not a future resume, but kind of like an iteration of the existing resume that makes things more efficient.
Right. But so you're doing the same thing, but you do it faster because the machine does it instead of you.
What we really need is a phase change. We need to like stop thinking about let's just combine a collection of keywords and then hunt for that, because a collection of keywords can never truly represent ability, much less potential.
Right. So what does the third wave of a resume should look like?
The third wave of a resume does not have a video in it. It starts with, it probably wouldn't even have a name, because again, even from the name, you can assume a lot of things that you should not be assuming. But it will have direct measurements of ability on a standardized scale that you do recognize. So not something that says like this person is 90% competent in blah. Now, what does that even really mean, right? Something more like a credit score, but a credit score on many different layers. Right. So like here's their score on this skill, on this skill, on this skill, on this skill. At least starting with the hard skills, because those are way more measurable. And then I think as the research progresses through more of the soft skills, like ability to learn, ability to have drive and grit and persistence, right? Like depending on what the company cares about when it comes to the soft skills, I do think eventually those would be measurable as well. If not through like a direct moment measurement, then at least by tracking this person's performance, learning speed, and progression over a longer period of time, just so you can extrapolate certain things about that.
Or there is the research that the author of a book conducted as a part of the research, the survey, that kind of measures how great you are.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be ways to measure it directly instead of making assumptions. Because today, most people make the assumption that like, oh, if you went to an elite school, that means you're like the most driven, gritty person. If you didn't, I guess not. But so not true.
What is the bottom line for today?
Yeah, the bottom line would be that, when it comes to the future of resumes, we've got to find more unbiased ways to create a layer of data that's, directly measurable, is free of biases, and can enable more of this matchmaking approach. And I think thinking about the future of resume, we'll cover this in future episodes. We cannot not talk about the future of job descriptions.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you for your insights. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.